Hey everybody, BTO Pro here, and today I'm not playing that game. I'm just going to do some live coding and show this thing that I've been messing with. So could be relevant if you're taking my web dev class. If not, whatever. So here's the problem, or use case we're trying to go for. So in my class, we've got these microservices that we're working on. We're building up towards microservice architecture and micro front end specifically. Micro front end being built a little brick, talks to a back end thing, does something impressive. So in this mindset, picking around through my own code, and found this one way that I could apply the concepts of class to what I'm building and actually liberate myself of some of my own design decisions previously. So what am I rambling about? Well, first of all, we're talking HAXcms here. Yes, this is a HAXcm deployment, which is a SaaS version of HAXcms. Let's ignore that part. But just I have HAXcms. And so currently I go to, let's say, the micro-frontends course. I just made a little goofy space I never then ended up building out. And I go, I want to add a page. So I hit add page and I get this dialogue, clunky dialogue. And using the BTO Pro School of Thought, anything that pops up in a modal is undesigned. That's literally the way I design things. So create the page, it creates the page, right? And it hit some backend endpoint, did the thing. Now, here is what I'm proposing to go to in a little local experimental build. So I got two add page buttons. Now I have add page, new child page, new page. Okay. Previously, click the button, popped up. Now, in this configuration, however, let's go to this page. I'm editing things and stuff. Cool. Let's just change the title, show up that capability, stuff. All right, so imagine I'm editing the page and then embed a query tag or something like that. We learn about the internet. Our save, we have our page on things and stuff in the internet. I edited the page in context, removing another dialogue, which is fun. I could have done it via this modal, something we're phasing out as we move towards that in-page thing. So as part of this whole effort of usability cleanup, reducing clicks and assumptions. Now, if I add a child page, there's no modal. And this is the idea. Taking the button, issuing that call with enough data to get us primed, and then you're going to go and edit it anyway. So doing it that way is a dramatically different usability and user experience. If I wanted to add another page in the other configuration, I would click modal, type, click, click, modal, type, click, click, modal, type, click, click, modal, type. However, in this, I can just hammer out a page structure that is either sibling or nested child pages unbelievably rapidly. And the reason I can do this, one, is because HAXcms is so stinking fast, but because we've actually taken the button. Oh, I made it mad in my local site. Sorry, I had a route get missed there. Let's go back. This is experimental after all. So, yeah, path didn't get passed through, so I do have to mess with the paths a little bit. You can see that it lost the, there we go. These ones are good. Okay. So still messing with it a little bit, but so if I can add a page rapidly like that, like I did there, I know what happened on that previous one. Didn't fulfill its promise. So I can jump around, build out this structure incredibly rapidly because I'm not stopping to make the intention known that I want to add a page as far as the title. Because I'm always going to edit the page, be like, right, the title that I want of whatever the page is. And so I'm still going to go and do that operation, but it's going to be at another point in time, right? It's an additional action. So I'm still editing it. It's just I'm getting the instantaneous feedback of adding a thing in this case, right? So when I add a child page, I get, hey, that was created. The route changes to point to this, and it's there. Then I can make the decision to modify the title. In this case, even hitting the usability clip of edit mode, default to the title because it's the first thing on the page. So this subtle change dramatically improves the pace at which we can create items once I fix that one glitch. So the backend didn't have to change in order to do this. I'll pull my code over here. So A backend didn't have to change for this to happen because the create node route, which is what's getting tapped when you hit input content and ship it up to the endpoint, is documented with Swagger or OpenAPI Spec 3.0, as it's called now. And so I think Swagger is the visualization tool. It's not my sphere. So because this is documented correctly, though, I could go through, look at my own example of a previous thing and go, oh, well, if I ship the site name, which it validates to ensure you're editing the correct site and it's a site you have ownership before, and I've got the node base information in place, and then I can ship up these additional details as needed. And so because the endpoint was there to support this thing existing, what I was able to do is I made a HAXcms button base class. And the HAXcms button base class is effectively one of those buttons over on the side. You can see it here. These are built off the same base class. Now, these other ones have just been like an implementation of a button. And then you'd click delete. Delete would bubble up an event. The event gets captured by some other logic, and that logic then deploys the modal. Then it sets an event listener on the reverse so that when you hit confirm, the original thing listening captures that and goes, now issue another event, and that event goes out the door. And if all of that sounded complicated, it is, which is why it needs rearchitecting. So cancel, get out of that event. However, these two buttons are the visual asset, but they have a lot of logic baked into them as to how to interface more cleanly with the entire system. So the default for one of these buttons, for one, has I18 support built in out of the box. So as we add different translations into HAXcms, it automatically is going to pick up that translation code. Some writing on dev.to if you're interested in that. It's got support for a tooltip, icons in place, and the button itself. So we've already got those molecules figured out. So the actual thing going on here is just, hey, the button was clicked, a data bind to the button being clicked, and then wiring up the label and the tooltip from a function. So we've got this method on our base class here of HAXcms button. We've got some minor defaults saying there's a label, a voice command, not a big deal, right? So, and we don't even actually set the voice command by default because it's still like way out there. But so very basic style, and then some baseline styling, I should show. Okay, so some baseline styling that it is a button that is going to be clicked on. Then we implement that button as HAXcms button add. The idea being in the future, we have the HAXcms button for deleting and the HAXcms button for editing. Whereas previously, as I mentioned before, we had all that logic tangled together across lots of files. So the way that a HAXcms button for adding takes place, it rewrites some of those translated variables, right, off of T, which is the way we do translation. It's extending from the HAXcms button. It's got future support for auto editing, which I'll show what that would do, and then the type of parent that this button is, and setting the icon and a voice command. So then we can see here we've got some properties, mix in the previous ones, add support for our parent type. Now rendering, and this is going to look a little weird. If you've seen other HTML elements we've made. So I'd say render the button. So I'm actually calling a method that's available because of the superclass. And so this .render button, and I pass in either the translated values for new page or the translated values for new child page. So based on whether or not parent-type, right there, is set to sibling when it's implemented, is whether or not you get one or the other. Now, this automatically sets a listener on the window for create node success. So it's implying that this node was created successfully. I click the button, this thing's going to respond to it. And so this thing is going to respond to it by saying, okay, the button is clicked, which is the callback, if you recall in here, right? It's called HAXcms button click. And so by calling this, I overload the original method involved in this base class. And so now, even though you're clicking on something that was defined by the asset in the base class, it's actually going to run the method that's in this class that's implementing it. So I take the title, I look at store. In this case, this is the HAXcms store. that's powering the whole application, state, knowledge of what page we're on, etc. So if we have that, which is just a sanity check, in case we're bootstrapping this and you click too quickly and the system's not ready yet, then check if we have either a sibling-based parent type selection or a child-based parent type selection. If it's sibling, that implies the parent is the same as the active page you're viewing's parent, and that the order is to be one after the current page. And that's enough detail to target the current page that you're viewing and then right below it. So if it's a child page, the parent of the new thing is actually going to be the ID of the current thing. And currently I need to do something with order to do for later. So what happens then is we bubble up an event off of our element that says create node. And HAXcms create node is going to go all the way up to window where we are listening for that event elsewhere. Kind of almost got like this control board logic element that basically just sits there and listens for events as far as actions it's supposed to take and ships them off to the correct backend endpoint, like a router type of an element, except to a specific backend, not a front-end router, just to clarify. So the detail involved here is going to send the title, the location, which is just null, because the backend can figure out what the title should be based on there being no location. So when we put this in and we have a parent set, the parent and the order are going to get set on the back end, and then the title is going to get set, and then it's going to look and say, who is my parent? And it's going to add that nice slug on. Who's that parent? Slug. Who's that parent? Slug. Who's that parent? And keep going back until we get the entire slug built out. Now, that's why I know that I goofed it before, and I said there was a promise involved. If you see the addresses at the bottom, they're building out based on, new page, right? So these slugs, as I go back through them, click forward through those, if I add a new child page, right, we get another one, which extends this little new. However, those ones that were busted before, if I can call one up, hit them under here. Yeah, if you see at the bottom, I'm not going to click it because it'll break it. It just says new -page -5. That's because I created the page and then kept creating others before it had established that this was the parent. And so because it hadn't yet established that was the parent, it wasn't able to correctly generate a slug off of it. So some, just logic I have to trap for. But that is how we're getting this nice path built out very rapidly. So this message goes out the door, the control board handles it, and then at the end, it runs this button click callback. And the button click callback says, if we're in auto edit mode, delay just for a moment, then mutate the store and force it to be that we are editing. Now, it doesn't currently do this because we still need to find a UX pattern for it. But let me show you what would take place if we had that capability. So I'm going to go to this page. Imagine I'm editing and type some stuff and I make a column or something and I hit save. Okay, no issue. Now I'm going to inspect. I'm going to call up console and we're going to do just kind of a couple instance commands, and I know I can go right to it. So I can go edit mode. Right now, edit mode is false. If I mutate the store and make edit mode true, we're editing again. If I say false and it didn't emanate from clicking save, then it just resets it, right? So what we're thinking with that automatic value, and I had it this way at first, but I just demonstrated why I could, hammer through it. That's awesome. Let's say I'm on this page, and what I'm thinking is instead of the new page and add new child page being up here, because that functionality is distilled into like one method and it's on this button, if I mutate the CSS styling of this, I could place the button in context if you are logged in. And so you maybe hover over some like little settings gear, or if you leave the cursor position here long enough, a settings menu shows up, or you right click, like those types of things, still working on it. But that when that happens, I just execute what that functionality is. However, if I clicked that, so imagine I clicked that button, I'm right here, that what I could do is I could tell it to make the thing and then forcibly set the new thing into an editing state. And so with that one little tweak, still having access to the store, using just generic event listeners, the delay is that it's making the new page. The front end has to then go and basically load the content of the new page, which is blank, but it's just to ensure that the state management is kept in sync. So that little bit of a timeout is to ensure that the DOM has actually gotten that and it's updated, and then we force ourselves into an edit state. That's a little clunky, but the reason I don't have to worry about like a promise for the body area being fully updated is you click to go to a page, right? And then I click edit. And so the act of actually going to the thing, and then I'm never going to be able to hit it that quickly to get below it. It's actually like 10 milliseconds that it needs to update safely. But so that's currently what I'm thinking as far as a revision there. Why working on this? Why I'm re-architecting these buttons for that reason. The less buttons I get over here while still achieving the same functionality, the more it positions us for the project that I'm working on and designing the UX pattern of with a team of students right now. So if you want to learn more about the weird stuff that I occasionally post videos on, go to hackstheweb.org. And for reasons unknown, you might want to go to hacks.camp in the near future, which I will be talking about in the coming weeks. Ta-ta.